My first guest represents the first Western government to dedicate an official department to helping persecuted Christians in the Middle East. He's the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he recently attended the first ever Ministerial on Religious Freedom, put on by the U.S. State Department. Now, representatives of governments from all over the world gathered here in Washington in July to advance the cause of religious freedom around the world. Here's my exclusive interview with Hungarian Foreign Minister PÉTER SZIJJÁRTÓ. You were part of this religious ministerial that the State Department put on. Why did you attend and what did you make of that gathering?
I came because I take all the opportunities to speak about the destiny of the Christian communities in the Middle East, because I have to tell you we are a little bit fed up with the hypocrisy and political correctness based on which we, the Christian countries, are too shy and too modest to speak about the fact that there are Christian communities being persecuted very seriously in the Middle East region. And you know, we are also fed up with the approach that whenever we want to speak about the Christian communities, we are usually warned not to do so and rather say religious minorities. But I mean, we don't want to speak about religious minorities, we want to speak about the Christian communities in the Middle East. And I wanted to take advantage of this event as well, which we highly appreciated, because we see that your administration puts a lot of emphasis, especially Vice President Pence puts personally a lot of emphasis on this matter. And you know, we have to admit that Christianity has become the most persecuted religion all over the world, and 4 out of every 5 persons who are killed for his or her belief are Christians. And it's unacceptable. And it's unacceptable that kind of a context is being put together in the international politics and international media as if portraying as if Christianophobia would be the last acceptable form of discrimination, and we totally reject that. And we have to speak about that openly, straightforward, honestly, like your president does speak about many issues honestly and straightforward.
And your prime minister won election talking about just these issues, about maintaining the culture. Now, some will say that shows, and some of your critics say, this shows a religious intolerance because you're saying we don't want more Muslim refugees and you should accept more. You would say what to that?
No, what we say is that we Hungarians do have the right to make a decision with whom we would like to live together in our own country. And we Hungarians do have the right to make a decision whom do we allow to enter the territory of our country and whom we do not allow to enter the territory of our country. No one can take away this right of ours, be it the United Nations, be it European Union, no one. This is a core competence of Hungary, of the Hungarian people. This is a matter of sovereignty. We are proud to be a Christian country. We are proud to be a Hungarian country, and we want to preserve that. We want to preserve our culture. We want to preserve our heritage. We want to preserve our religion. We don't want anyone to change that. We don't like the idea of changing population among continents. We wanna remain as we are. We are a Christian Hungarian country, and we wanna preserve it as a Christian Hungarian country. And this is our own right, and no one can question that, whether this is a right of ours or not.
You all passed a law recently making it illegal for people to provide aid to illegal immigrants. How is that being received?
Okay, the legislation says that if you as an organization or individual promote the opportunity to violate the Hungarian border, or if you as an entity or a person promote the opportunity to submit requests for asylum without a legal basis, then you have to count with consequences. But you know, this is again a security issue, and this is again a sovereignty issue. Because if you look back to the last 3 years, the developments of last 3 years in Europe, you will see that after the migration flow started to arrive to Europe, 29 major terrorist attacks have been committed in the territory of the European Union, committed by persons with a migratory background, either by those who arrived with these flows recently, or either those who came earlier, or whose parents or grandparents came earlier and were totally unable to be integrated. And if you have a look at the Western European societies, in many places you see double societies or parallel societies being established. So this is a security issue. So if you promote to violate the border of our country, you have to count with the consequences.
Mr. Szijjarto, I had your ambassador on a few weeks ago, and we talked about the efforts of Hungary to help monetarily these Christians you just talked about in the Middle East. Why that commitment? Why the focus on something so far away, outside of your country?
Because
Is it because the rest of the world isn't paying enough attention to them?
Because we are a Christian country, and this is our own obligation. Because my question is that if we Christians don't take care about the Christians in need, then who will take care about them? As I told you, we are fed up with the approach that it is expected from us to speak about all communities, because we Christians have a special obligations towards the Christian communities. And yes, when I attend the meetings of European foreign ministers, when I attend meetings of other leaders, and when I speak about the necessity to protect the Christians there, you know, they are a little bit moderate. I mean, they are modest on that. Although you have to put it into consideration that hundreds of thousands of Christian families were forced to leave their homes from places where Christian communities had been there for centuries, or even before everyone, you know. And the world just doesn't take care about that. And I think that the international efforts must aim to give back the right to the Christians to live where they have been living.
In their homeland.
In their homeland. Must give the right to the Christians to enjoy the same rights as all other communities in that given region. And must give a right to the Christians to return safely back to their places, and to make sure that they will have a safe and secure life there. And you know, bishops, archbishops coming to Budapest to see the Prime Minister, myself, in Budapest, and telling us about the challenges ahead of them. And then we always ask them, so what you need? What's your major challenge? So they say, we need to build a school, we need to cover medical expenses of the hospital, we have to rebuild the churches. And we say, okay, and we finance it directly. So just to give you a couple idea, Telskov is a municipality in Iraq. All the houses of the 1,300 Christian families were demolished. They all had to leave. So we gave money, we rebuilt 991 houses, and 991 families could return. But this shouldn't be a Hungarian program. This should be an international effort to give back the physical and the legal possibility for all Christians who had to leave their homes to go back. Or we are now involved in a project with the Lebanese that we finance rebuilding of 31 Christian churches in Lebanon, and we finance it. Or we finance building schools for the Christians in Erbil and other places.
And what do your EU counterparts say when you ask them, why don't you join us in this? This is an important effort. We're all part of the same heritage. They say what?
Because, you know, they are hypocritical and they are politically correct, and they are afraid or shy or too modest to speak about their Christian roots. They say that we have to take care about all aspects, and they are not brave enough, or they just simply don't want to speak about the Christians. There are some exceptions, by the way. With the Polish, we work together very well. With the Slovaks, we work together very well. The Czechs, so the so-called Visegrad countries in the heart of Europe, in Central Europe, we are very enthusiastic on that. For example, with the Polish, we have decided to rebuild a home for orphans, which is owned by a Catholic or a Christian community as well. We pay for it. So, but you know, we take it as an obligation, because you know we have been a country for we have been a Christian country for a millennium now. And we are proud of it. We don't hide it. Our constitution starts, may God bless the Hungarians. And in the constitution we write that we are a Christian country, we are proud of it, and you know we stick to our
part of
values.
your national identity.
Of course it is. And when we have put together this constitution in 2011, we got a lot of criticism from the Western friends of ours. Why we put such kind of things in a constitution? How unmodern it is, you know.
What does it mean to have Mike Pompeo and the State Department host a conference on religious freedom? They've always had a commission on it, but it was kind of, they filed reports, they listed countries of concern, but it was kind of, let's face it, it was paperwork. What does it mean to have leadership coming forward and saying this is an important priority, and the White House?
I think it's very powerful message. We really respect your president. We really respect your vice president, and we really respect your secretary of state, and we really respect and appreciate their efforts to put religion, freedom of religion, as a very top priority of this administration. We like it a lot, and I told all your officials that you can count on our continuous support in this regard. And today the vice president made very powerful messages, very powerful. If you listen to the speakers, they were all enthusiastic about that. And you know, Hungary will continue this policy because you know, we don't want to kind of agree with a context which ends up basically in Europe that everybody has a right to religious freedom except for the Christians, you know, because sometimes, you know, it's really against any kind of common sense and any kind of historic approach that in western part of Europe, in some cases, in some countries, people are forced to take off the Christian religious symbols from the walls of public institutions, for example. But now I have to tell you that more and more people in Europe are fed up with hypocrisy and political correctness, and there's a shift in this regard. So if you study the recent decisions of the Italian government, or the Bavarian government, the Austrian government, you know, that's a shift in this regard. And I really do hope that saying that a Christian Europe will not be a totally empty expression in the future.
What would you say to Pope Francis, who has said repeatedly, you're Catholic, your Prime Minister has met with the Pope, he says it is unchristian for a nation not to receive these refugees who are looking for hope if you have the means to accept them, and you have the means to accept them.
Well, the Pope is always right. This is the number one issue. Number two, we as Christians, I believe we have special responsibility. We have a special responsibility towards our people. We have a special responsibility towards our religion, and a special responsibility towards our nation. And we cannot allow a situation to occur where the security and safety of our people, regardless of their faith or belief or religion, so when their safety gets in danger. We cannot afford that. We cannot afford that. So ensuring that your people, your nation, can live a safe and secure life is a Christian obligation, basically. Yeah. And in order to put efforts there is a Christian obligation as well. And we will always fulfill these obligations of ours.
The President Trump met with the EU representative, and surprisingly, they came to an agreement on tariffs, that they would stop the trade war on tariffs and lower them. Your reaction as a member of the EU?
Look, we are a country with a small but very open economy. Our export over GDP ratio is 90.1%. Our number one export market is the European Union. Number two export market is the United States of America. So you can imagine a country with the size and openness of ours could be extremely harmed by a trade war between the number one export market and the number two export market. So our endeavor, our desire, what we cross fingers for, is to avoid any kind of trade war, any kind of trade-related conflict between the US and the European Union. Number one, this endangers the stability of the transatlantic relationship, which is extremely important. Yep. And number two, that causes troubles on both sides. So we are a very pro-free trade nation. So as your president says, free and fair trade, totally sign up to that, subscribe to that. We are absolutely in favor of free and fair trade. We are absolutely in favor of entering into negotiations about some kind of a free trade agreement between the United States and the European Union. We are competitive. We have not to be afraid of anything. Of course, we have our red lines like GMO and other stuff, but these can be validated, of course, through putting together the negotiating mandate of the European Union. But basically, we are interested in free trade instead of trade war.
I thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
The pleasure was mine.
Great insights.
Thank you.